What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. In today's video, we're taking a little bit of a diversion from the normal type of team videos I do. This is a team battles you guys have already seen on the channel, but don't click away just yet. What I'm doing in this game, or in this video, is what I'm going to actually break down my gameplay on a per move basis here, and I want to be able to kind of share my thought process for these games with you guys so that you can understand what goes through my head when I play some of these games. I've grabbed about a set's worth, 15 minutes worth of battles. We're going to go through them slower than normal, about 100% speed and pause and whatnot if we have to. But let's get into the battles here because I want to be able to, kind of show you guys my thought process in these games, and let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more things like this. It's a really interesting dynamic when you get a difference of somebody shoutcasting the battles versus really deep diving into their thought process. So we're playing a team here of Whiscash, Skarmory Core with the Shadow Dragonair in the back, and my silly self forgot to take away my Dragon Pulse and put Aqua Tail on it. So if you're going to run this team, which I feel like it's going to be a very strong team, especially the Whiscash Skarmory Core in Great League Remix, which is coming up very shortly here in the rotation schedule. Dragonair maybe not going to be the most specific thing because I expect Carbink to be kind of everywhere, but it's still worth a look, right? So pick your safe swap or your back Pokemon, but at the same time, right, like this is going to be a very strong core to play in the Great League Remix. So really, right away, nasty lead, right? Grass is like the worst thing you can hope for Whiscash. So my initial thought here is I need to get switch advantage and I need to get Whiscash away from this superior. And what I'm doing here is I'm using one of my actually I teach this lesson on Metafy, and if you want to check out in the pinned comment description, there's a link to my Metafy page. Assessments is a thing that I do with my students, and basically what we're looking at here is how is the lead situation and what kind of damage do I have against their lead in the back. In this case, because I have two very strong answers to superior in the back, I'm going to immediately swap in my Dragonair, and at this point I'm at the mercy of what my opponent brings in. They bring in a fairy or something, dude, I'm done. But they bring in a Toxicroak, and what you can do in these situations where your fast move damage is most of the damage, I get to see, I'm counting how many moves they have, I throw my Body Slam, and I get to see where their HP is at, and I kind of get to use that as an estimate of where it's going to be when I'm done with the next set of Dragon Breath. So I realize that the Dragon Breath is adding up much quicker than the opponent's counters. I can farm down and win switch, and my top priority, even if I go down to 0 shields here in order to win this matchup, my top priority is getting switch advantage. So, because if I can lock my Skarmory onto that superior, my opponent's going to have a really bad time. So my opponent now comes in with a water ground type. I haven't seen what it is yet. It's a Whiscash. So I have a lot of energy on my Dragonair, but I realize I'm only going to get to one move here. So I decided to just full send the Dragon Pulse. And at this point, my Whiscash against their Whiscash is a much better matchup for my Whiscash, and I'm just saving Skarmory in the back. That's all I'm doing at this point. The game is pretty much over. We even land the nuke, even though they have a shield, they decide not to respect it, which, to be fair, not many people really would, right? Because it's not something that most Dragonairs are going to run. I just happen to have the move on me, but my opponent now throws a move. It doesn't really matter to me at this point what they do, because I can just lock my Skarmory onto the superior, and it makes my opponent miserable. And honestly, I would probably top left too. So that's a good game, but this is the situation where you want to identify a situation where you want to win switch, or if you need to win switch and get your Pokemon off of the hard counter in front of it. And then if your safe swap has the opportunity to get that Pokemon off, right, you switch the switch advantage, right? You now have Skarmory on the superior, and whatever's in the back is probably going to be a lot easier to deal with for Whiscash. So it's a good game to the opponent here, but the getting Dragonair on there to win switch, the opponent not having a solid answer to it, really was what made that game a win. Whiscash in this next game into Lantern. This is a very positive lead. And once again, using that assessment strategy, we want to keep Lantern away from the Skarmory at all costs. It's okay if it's against the Dragonair, and it's okay if it's against the Whiscash. Now, my opponent's staying in here for a moment, right? So for a split second when they stayed and I thought they were core broken by Whiscash, turns out maybe they just hit a fast move instead. They immediately come in with a Dragon type here, and my Skarmory is now going to be the best thing. There's two reasons why I'm bringing in Skarmory here. One, because it walls the moveset as a steel type of Altaria, but two, it means now that my Skarmory is going to get some use in this battle and keeping it away from the Lantern, which is ideal here because now all I need to do is use my Skarmory. I have a good matchup no matter what I do at this point against the Lantern. So it's really a matter of what they have in the back. Now, something that you might note here, and you can see it in my team as well, these water types are very typically paired with a flying type. So I expect there to be another flyer in the back here to cover the weakness, the grass weakness of Lantern. So my opponent shields here, meaning they're trying to make a play for switch. So I also have to try and make a play for switch here. So I am going to start shielding. My opponent really wants switch advantage. So what that tells me is they may have a hard answer to my Whiscash in the back, the way that they're playing this game. So I'm going to be playing accordingly. I'm going to fight for switch because they shield that move. Usually when your opponent gets hard countered, they're just going to say, that's fine. I'm just going to let this go and try and get shield advantage or something. My opponent has now gone down both shields in order to win this matchup. I'm getting to a Brave Bird here. I'm shielding, and I'm going to win switch. And there's nothing that is going to stand in the way of that unless they try to swap and catch on Lantern. But at that point, you know, different story. But they don't swap to catch or anything. So I go for the Brave Bird. I'm going to win switch advantage here. All shields are now down, and they're going to come in and farm me down with Lantern, but that's fine. I identify, because of the way that my opponent is playing with that Altaria switch in, that they want switch advantage and they want to keep Whiscash away from Lantern. They have something else in the back that's better suited to deal with the Whiscash, at least from the way that they're acting. So I'm going to bring my Whiscash back in here instead and leave my Dragonair in the back for whatever's back there. So we'll see what my opponent does here. And they have a Ferrothorn. So they clearly do have a better answer to Whiscash. They have a grass type in the back. Now, this is a very interesting situation here, because the steel typing on that Ferrothorn also walls my Dragonair. But there's something to keep in mind, folks, is just because my opponent's Ferrothorn hard counters my Whiscash, it doesn't mean that my Whiscash does no damage. Okay, so we get 2 Mud Bombs off, and that's going to take the Ferrothorn down to about half HP. And remember, Dragonair's Dragon typing allows it to resist grass moves. So I'm going to pop in with my Dragonair here after a minute. I'm looking to catch the move here, which is why I swap at this exact moment. It's 4 Bullet Seeds to the first Power Whip, and I swap after they get to that 4th Bullet Seed. So Power Whip is going to be resisted, not even going to do half. And it's key to remember how much damage that Power Whip did in this matchup, because I have to make a decision. Do I want to farm this all the way down? Can I farm this all the way down? Or do I want to throw a Body Slam here to just get rid of the Ferrothorn? Most players that I know and talk to and teach will just throw the Body Slam to get rid of this thing, but that could potentially cause an issue later on. Whereas if Lantern is able to abuse the Dragonair for energy, for example, say they get to another Power Whip and then they farm me down with their Lantern, that could prove troublesome for Whiscash. In this particular case, I don't think that Whiscash is in range of 2 Surfs, but it's just a situational thing that maybe doesn't apply to this game, but could happen at some point in the future in a game, right? Like you throw the move and then the opponent farms you down and then they have the energy to take out the other Pokemon. So I'm very carefully looking at this and I'm making sure I know I can live another Power Whip, so I'm not looking to throw my energy until they get to that 3rd Power Whip. That's when I'm going to throw a move if I have to. Otherwise, I'm going to try to commit to a full farm down and try to leave my Whiscash and my Dragonair able to deal with it. So opponent and I are going for fast moves, and I notice that I can farm down. They throw the Thunder, and thankfully it doesn't do as much damage, or it does just about as much, I should say, as the Power Whip, which now allows me to get this farm down. I can unleash the Dragon Pulse here against this Lantern, and Whiscash just comes in and finishes up here. This is going to be a good game to my opponent here. They played it very well. The Ferrothorn honestly was very difficult to get around, but thankfully, because of the fact that I was able to tag team with my Lantern, or no, with my, goodness gracious, with my Whiscash and my Dragonair, I was able to make a very difficult situation that could have very well ended up walling my team, right? If they have Flash Cannon, I'm over. Like, that's it. Like Whiscash could have gotten to a Mud Bomb there to take out the Ferrothorn, but that would have been a very risky situation to be in. So this definitely could have gone one way or the other. But using gauging damage and things to be able to get that farm down was huge. So we have a not so awesome lead here in the next game, right? So again, the assessment situation here, looking at the leads and the damage that I've got, right? Skarmory is ideal here because it's steel typing, walls, the Dragon Breath, and Body Slam. Obviously, Aqua Tail's neutral. My Mud Bombs will hit for neutral, but those Dragon Breaths will add up very quickly. I cannot just swap in my Dragonair because then I'll just lose it. They'll Dragon Breath through it or something will happen. So I would rather get an advantage of some sort before I decide to do that. And so what I do here is I go for the Mud Bomb, knowing that I get to the Mud Bomb in 10 turns. They take 12 turns or 12 Dragon Breaths to get to their first move. So I get the first damage, or I get a shield here. And I get the damage. So now my opponent going for some more fast moves right before I get to my Mud, or at least in this case they threw. I'm confusing it with other games at this point. Don't listen to me. Mud Bomb number 2 is coming out. This will guarantee I get a shield. And now I can swap into my Dragonair if I want to absorb some damage, or just, basically keep the heat off my Whiscash. But I decide that, and truthfully, right, truly here at this point, I have no idea what they have in the back. Okay. I have absolutely no clue what's in the back in this game. So I'm just trying to see what happens. I'm really just playing reactively at this point. What I'm going to do is, no matter what, they threw this energy. If I live or not, I'm going straight into my Dragonair here, and I'm going to go ahead and try to Dragon Breath down, because those do chunk, but my opponent notices before they get farmed down, and they are able to swap into their Azumarill, which now normally you'd feel like this is a pretty hard counter, and my move timing here is absolutely awful. I could be doing so much better with my move timing here, but unfortunately I just kind of dropped the ball, and they get a free bubble in here. In 2-to-1 shields, those body slams add up much quicker than the bubbles do, because you can just shield everything and actually come out of this matchup on top. So Azumarill going straight for Play Rough here tells me they're probably running Hydro Pump and not Ice Beam, because they would just go for the Ice Beam if they had it. That would be enough to one-shot a Dragonair. So at this point, I still don't really know what they're going to have in the back. I'm not really reading this team at this point. I'm just trying to mow through the Azumarill with my Dragonair, and I'm actually looking to win this matchup. I have enough, my Dragonair's healthy enough that no matter what's in the back, it's going to do some damage. And I'm going to have a good chance to either conserve my Dragonair, or I'm going to be able to use it up and get a ton of damage onto whatever's there. Now I get up to 2 body slams, and I throw like a bozo on alignment and let a full bubble through. I thought based on the visuals that I wasn't. My opponent shields, and I immediately go for this next body slam before they're able to throw another charge move. So now I get to see what's in the back. Although my Dragonair is empty on energy, they have no shields, which is good. My Whiscash is in the back, ready for a catch if it needs to be. My opponent has a Talonflame. This is very, very bad, and this is one of those situations where I really wish I had Aqua Tail, because I think it would have been enough to KO here, if not very close. I go for my my body slam, and this is bad, right? Because I have Skarmory in the back that hasn't seen battle yet. It has no energy, has nothing to speak of, but you have to once again remember from the last time we talked about this that even though your damage is resisted, it's still doing damage. And so we're going to take a look at what happens in this game here. This is kind of a miracle in and of itself, to be completely honest, but I'm going to break it down and tell you guys how this works, because the turns is something that I know that trainers are not super familiar with, but it's a very good concept to try and wrap your head around, because knowing how turns work in this game is going to help you learn move timing and things like that much better. So my Skarmory comes in, and look, the Seal Wings are chunking, and so I want to play that back for a minute, because I was kind of talking, weren't paying attention. My opponent has gone for 3 Incinerates at this point and KO'd me. So they're about to throw Incinerate number 4 once I come out with my Skarmory, and they're probably anticipating to be able to take me out with a Flame Charge. So my Skarmory is going to come in here, and what I do here is I need to try and catch a move. So I go 1, 2, and you see I stop tapping in this moment to wait that 1 turn for the Incinerate to end, and then I quickly tap on Whiscash to swap it in. And now I'm able to catch this charge move. If my opponent had thrown another Incinerate, I lose this game. But thankfully for me, they are going to go for the Flame Charge here, and I'm going to be able to go for another one. But when I was playing this game, I thought that they were still 1 more away from a Flame Charge, and I didn't count that 3rd Incinerate that hit my Dragonair. So this whole time I'm like, oh, I fast moved down. But now they're going to be able to get me for the the Flame Charge here. And so the important thing that we want to understand is that if this does not KO, which, look at this, I told you this win was a miracle. Okay, now because that didn't KO, the opponent's Incinerate is going to take 5 full turns. The damage won't register until turn 4. My opponent immediately swaps in their Dragonair. The swap takes a turn, and the Dragon Breath then occurs the turn after, on the same turn that my Steel Wing damage, which is a 2-turn move, is going to occur. So the Dragonair just simply gets taken out because of this, and I do not take any fast move damage. And then because their Incinerate takes 5 turns, I'm able to fit 1 Steel Wing inside of that 5 turns as a 2-turn move, and able to go for the KO in this manner. So very, very tight game there, but thankfully able to come out with a win just I mean, honestly, miracle because Talonflame wasn't able to KO. That's really all it came down to. So we get a really good lead here, okay? Whiscash and Dragonair both really good here, but honestly, Dragonair without Aqua Tail is not as solid. So my Whiscash is really good alignment, and I want to keep this alignment if possible because Skarmory is miserable against this thing. So my opponent staying in here is telling me that they may be core broken by my Whiscash. Because I don't have a better answer, I'm staying in, and my opponent's got the Ferrothorn. I don't know where the Ferrothorns are coming from. It might just be to try and counter Skarmory or something. I don't know. But it sure was infuriating knowing that that was like one of the biggest things that I kept seeing on this particular day. Everybody was running it. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the last game. Again, this consistency is something that I try to preach to my students. If you did something that works, do it again. And keep doing it until it doesn't work. I go for 2 Mud Bombs into the Ferrothorn, just like last time, and then just like last time, I'm going to swap in my Dragonair. And this time, I have shields and whatnot. I have more power in this matchup because if I need to, I can shield through it. And so what we do here is we're going to do the same old song and dance as the last game we had a Ferrothorn. I'm just going to keep going. I know I can no-shield at least 1 or 2 of these, and I don't have to worry about being hit with a super effective or neutral move by this Ferrothorn, because if they're throwing Power Whip at me now, it means that they're not running Flash Cannon. And what I'm doing is I'm carefully looking at the HP bar of this Ferrothorn as it's being hit with the Dragon Breath, and I'm trying to gauge, am I going to be able to farm down in this amount of time, right? Using that the Dragon Breath damage over time, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how much of the HP bar is missing and how much of that HP bar is going to be missing, and is it going to be enough? So in this case, I have the power in this matchup. I'm going to win CMP over the Ferrothorn. I have the move timing advantage because I have this energy. It got me very low, so I'm very, very carefully making sure. I was ready to throw Body Slam at any moment here, but I realized that because of their Bullet Seed being 3 turns, I was going to be able to get that 1 or 2 Dragon Breaths I needed before they got the damage on that other one, and I was able to get through that matchup. And now I can simply throw my Dragon Pulse now at whatever comes in. And because it's Dragon Pulse, right, I didn't want to risk them coming in with the Marowak, which is what I thought they were going to do. They come in with a Lantern instead, which is very also, again, risky because now my Skarmory has no good targets. So what I'm not doing here is I'm not going to just say, go Whiscash, right? Well, in this case, yes, I'm going to say go Whiscash, but what I'm making a decision here for now is what alignment I want. I want Whiscash on the Lantern, because even though Skarmory doesn't really appreciate the fire damage coming from Alolan Marowak, it's still going to be able to hit with the flying type charge moves that it has and forces a shield off of the opponent. So they come in with the Marowak, and I'm going to go for a charge move here after they, or I'm either going to go for a charge move or they are, and they decide to go for their charge move. So I'm going to shield up because I want to keep my Whiscash healthy. My Whiscash is the win condition in this game. It's going to be the thing that beats the Lantern and the Alolan Marowak. So what I do here is I'm going to go for 4 of these Mud Shots because into a 2-turn into a 3-turn move, the ideal timing is 1, 4, 7 of your own moves. So you're going to go for 4, and I'm going to throw the Scald. And I'm expecting my opponent to shield this. And then when they do, I'm coming in with my Skarmory. And either way, I think I'm coming in with my Skarmory. But I do decide to come in with Skarmory regardless here, and they decide not to shield. So now I'm farming down with my Skarmory, and the opponent has 2 shields, but once again, folks, just because your damage is resisted doesn't mean you're not doing any damage. Whiscash is in the back. My thought here is no matter what happens with this Skarmory matchup, I am saving that shield for my Whiscash, which is still extremely healthy, can survive at least 2 Surfs from the Lantern. So they would have to farm me all the way down in order to accomplish that. And they're low enough. Remember, they took a Dragon Pulse. They are within range of needing to shield charge moves, because if they don't, they're going to lose. So I'm just going to go straight for the Sky Attack here. What this does is it's going to put that decision on the opponent's plate. And I would much rather make them make a decision than go for a situation where I'm making a coin toss. So they have to go ahead and shield that up, because if they don't, they will get farmed down or something will happen and they will lose the game. So now they're going to go for a charge move, and I'm just going to let it go. If it's Thunderbolt, great. If it's Surf, great. They're going to farm me down, so they do go for the Surf, but because they went for Surf, and now I can reach a Brave Bird. I'm going to go for the Brave Bird. I'm only getting 1 more move off. I'm going to go for the one that's going to hit harder. So now I didn't go for the Brave Bird before because I wanted to see if I was going to hit 2 charge moves. I knew they were going to shield anyway. If I go for the Brave Bird while they have 2 shields, they could have just farmed me all the way down and I would not be able to get the second move off. So now I go for the Brave Bird. It's enough to KO even though it's resisted and it's a Lantern, and that's going to be a good game. My opponent's back. My opponent was core broken front and back by Whiscash. So getting into this next game, we've got Whiscash on the lead versus another Whiscash. So I don't really have a strong swap in other than Dragonair. So I have to stay in and play this out a bit, right? Skarmory's Steel Wings being resisted here is not ideal when the opponent outpaces me to Scalds, and they also do resisted damage back. So it's kind of a net neutral in fast moves, but their Scalds outpace, and they probably hit a lot harder, have the chance to debuff. So overall, just a very negative situation for Skarmory to be in. So I'm going to stay in, or I'm going to swap into Dragonair immediately here in this game. So there's 2 ways that I could have gone about this, right? There was a situation where I stay in with my Whiscash, or I go ahead and swap immediately into Dragonair. The reason why I swap immediately into Dragonair here is, again, remember what I just said about the Skarmory Whiscash matchup, and look what I'm playing. Who's to say the opponent's not playing a team of almost the exact same similar structure here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Dragonair because I want to draw out their Skarmory if I can, so that my Skarmory is not going to be opposed by an opposing Steel type. Perhaps they've got something in the back that's a little bit softer to flying types, right? So they come in here, or they're going to stay in here with their Whiscash. And at this point, you know, there's one of 2 things that could be happening. Either they are staying in to do some chip damage and dipping, or they're staying in to play this out. And so I'm farming up extra energy because I don't want to throw the Body Slam right away. If I throw it right away, they take it and then they swap. And then now I'm at a disadvantage with no energy and half of my HP is missing almost. So I would much rather over farm here as much as I can before I throw, because if I throw my energy and then they decide to come in with something else, I have some residual energy that it doesn't going to take me as long to get to another move. So we're going to go for this Body Slam here, and I'm going to just try and get some damage on this Whiscash. I'm fine with getting rid of this Whiscash. And they shield. And as soon as they shield, this screams to me that they don't like Dragonair in the back. There's 2 things in the back that don't like Dragonair, okay? And the reason why I'm saying that is because if they had at least 1 counter to Dragonair in the back, it would be on the field already. They would have said, oh, look at me. I'm going to beat your Dragonair because I have a counter to it in the back. They don't have one. So there's a very solid chance that there could be something like Talonflame in the back. Maybe not Skarmory, but at this point, now I'm a little bit scared that they might have a Talonflame in the back, and so I shield as well in order to try and maintain that switch. But now what happens, and I honestly make a mistake looking back at this game, there's no way I could have known this in the moment, but I go for another Body Slam here, and my opponent is going to shield again, and they're down 2 shields to 0, and I'm thinking, I've got Whiscash Skarmory core. I should be set against whatever comes in. I'll just farm down this Whiscash. I let the shield, I don't shield the Mud Bomb, and I decide to let it go. And then I come in with my Whiscash, and I'm going to commit to a hard farm down, thinking that my energy on Whiscash is going to be good against pretty much anything that they could possibly have at this point. Figure if it's Talonflame, Skarmory, whatever they've got, it's probably going to be good. My opponent goes for the Scald and gets a debuff, which is going to give me more farm. I'm kind of expecting to probably swap at this point. They get to another move, which is really unfortunate. I do have to shield this in order to keep my Whiscash somewhat healthy here. So I'm going to get to see now what they come in with, and in the back, they've got a Altaria. And I really wish I had Blizzard, but unfortunately, because it's a Dragon Flying type and I'm running Scald, they end up getting to the point where they completely wall my moveset, and then when I swap in my Skarmory, they have a Charge-a-Bug waiting for me. So if I had won that matchup with the Whiscash, again, this trainer did not want to swap in an Altaria to my Dragonair. They did not want to swap in a Charge-a-Bug to my Dragonair. It makes complete sense to me because Dragonair kind of dunks on both of them when it's ahead on energy and everything else. So I know the Altaria, they could have 2 shielded through it if they wanted to, but I mean, regardless. So I do top left here, realizing that there's no way that I can win this game. The only way that I win is if my Whiscash somehow just magically gets Blizzard as a 3rd move, but that's not going to happen. And unfortunately, the only way that I win that game is by winning that Whiscash matchup and getting the chance to align my team against the proper Pokemon, which is something that you can consider when you're playing your games. If you've got a strong core like Skarmory, Whiscash, and your opponent doesn't swap in anything, like, you know, they're going to give up switch advantage, right? They stay in their lead like that. it's probably better in hindsight to go for that win against their lead and try to align in the backline, because there's a good chance that no matter what they come in with, Skarmory and Whiscash, one of them is going to answer that Pokemon. There's very little things that just straight up core break that pair. So had they come in, you know, had I won that matchup with my Dragonair, I bet they come in with the Altaria, farm me down. I come in with Skarmory, they swap in Charjabug, Whiscash comes in to deal with that. It's a much better situation and probably a pretty clean win for me if I do that. But unfortunately, I did not have that in my brain at the time, but I do kind of learn from that mistake for any time afterwards that I find that situation. So let's talk about this one. This one, if I'm not mistaken, this game is a pretty good one. I'm going to take a swig of water real quick because I've been talking all evening. I'm coming towards the end of my vacation now, folks. I'll be back on Monday on the 8th of January. I've been actually at home with the family for the last, 2.5 weeks or so, and I'm pre-recording a bunch of stuff to make sure that we got content flowing along gone. So this is one of the last videos that I'm recording before I leave, and so I'm done. My throat is gone, dude. So really dominant, strong lead here with Bastiodon, but both Dragonair and Skarmory have an absolutely miserable matchup against this thing. So I don't want this matchup at all. And so they come in with Medicham. And so team reading 101 here, okay? This is a common team made by Mr. Wallower, the goat of old. He didn't create Grass Hole. He came in with the Bastiodon Victory Bell core and put Deoxys, I think, in there. So Medicham comes in as the safe swap here. And I don't know if Skarmory, wins this matchup straight up or not. I have yet to play it. But I'm also expecting they have a Victory Bell or some grass in the back, and so I wanted to keep my Skarmory for that. So what I do here is I go for some chip damage. I'm going to go for the Scald because I could get a potential debuff. I might be able to do some chip damage and dip into Dragonair and maybe farm down and maintain switch advantage. That's kind of my hope here, right? So I land the Scald and I get the debuff, but my amateurness is showing here as they go for a charge move, and I know for absolute certainty that this has got to be an Ice Punch, but I don't know how much it does after a debuff, and I don't want to take the chance of losing switch advantage here because it's so good to have, because if I lose switch here, they get the Bastiodon against the Skarmory, and I'm in just shambles. So I am going to go for the body slam. I'm hoping my opponent shields and lets me farm down. And so that's exactly what happens here. They do shield. I might have been able, I probably could have lived an Ice Punch. Truthfully, I don't know how much this does. But if I had Aqua Tail, this would have been a much better situation because I could have just farmed down with my Dragonair and then launched Aqua Tails at the Bastiodon. And quite a few of them probably with the amount of energy that I have. But because I am a bozo who forgot to TM away my Dragon Pulse after running this in Retro Cup, I now have a Bastiodon sitting in front of me that is going to take nothing but neutral, or nothing but not very effective damage. I could have got 2 Aqua Tails off on this thing, and I would have been happy. But I'm going to go for the Dragon Pulse because it's probably going to do more damage. It's same type attack bonus, and it's only single resisted from the steel typing, as opposed to the double resisted body slams. So going to go for that, and then come back in with Whiscash. And then the opponent stays in for just a moment, and then they come in with the Victory Bell. And I'm trying to be quick on my reaction times. I made sure I waited my switch timer out enough, and I'm immediately going to go straight to Skarmory here and farm this thing all the way down. I'm double resisting the grass type damage, so it's a good situation, you would think. I've triple hard countered my opponent. But they play this very well. And it's a lot closer than it might look from the surface. So I understand at this point that I'm not going to take very much damage from this Victory Bell because I'm double resisting everything they throw at me. They go for the Acid Spray to lower the defense. What they're going to do here is they're going to try to farm down my my Skarmory with their Bastiodon. And now I want you guys to look at this and see, how much different this is now that Skarmory has Steel Wing. This actually makes this playable, and I have to be careful because if they get a full farm down on my Skarmory and then come in with almost two charge moves to be able to hit my Whiscash with, I'm toast. Because even though Whiscash resists the damage from the Bastiodon, they have a shield, and they're gonna have almost 100 energy by the time they're done farming me down here. So I have to be very careful here. And now notice how low they're getting, okay? If I hit them with another move, they're gonna have to shield one of the two moves. So I'm gonna go for the Sky Attack because I feel like I might be able to get to another move here before they farm me down. I don't want to lower my defense because it's already as low as it goes, right? They don't shield this, but now, because they're not going to be able to farm me down, I'm going to be able to get to a Sky Attack right before they're able to completely farm me down. Now they have to shield. They absolutely have to. They're going to lose. They have to shield. They're going to lose. And remember, I had energy on my Whiscash, so the second they shield, I pop in and go for the combo play, Mud Bomb, and I'm able to take this game. But that could have been a very different game if they, if I had, not had Steel Wing, for example. It goes a very different way. Now, obviously, on paper, yes, I absolutely win this game. I demolish the opponent, and there's no way that they can win on paper. But they played this very well. That's what they're going to do. They're gonna lure out something. They're going to farm with Bastiodon, and then they're going to try to take me out with the energy and things they get. So that's kind of more of an in-depth look on the games that I played here. Again, let me know in the comments and subscribe and like, etc. if you guys want to see more content like this. I don't mind doing content like this. I just know that people are really looking for teams and things. But if this helps people get better and learn the game, and again, check me out on Metafy because you can get a one-on-one with me and we can go over your games and talk about stuff like this. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hope you guys have had a great holiday season. I know it's coming to a close here as it's probably, I think this is like after New Year's at this point. So we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.